What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and today we are going to be discussing Anthem's Endgame. Is it fun? Is it engaging? Is it any good? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. And it's a very important topic. Games have lived or died because of their endgame. Now, just before we begin, number one, of course, because this video is focusing on the end game, if you want to know about the experience from leveling up from 1 to the max level of 30, I've already done a video on that discussing things like the story, mission variety, and quality, stuff like that, so I would recommend watching that video before watching this one for some context. Also, I always forget to do this, but I got brand new merch. If you want to support the channel, check it out in the description down below. This gold foil print is only available for a couple more weeks, so definitely, I think it looks sweet. Check it out. But let's get started here, and let's just almost go in chronological order of what's going to happen when you first jump into the end game. Essentially, you reach level 30, and as soon as you do, you unlock 3 brand new difficulties that weren't accessible before. Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3. These are really your first experience in the endgame. Now, you can actually remain in hard difficulty and just do strongholds, free play, missions, stuff like that in that difficulty. And in fact, that's probably what you're going to do off the start, because the jump from hard to Grandmaster is pretty significant. Thankfully, you can still get some Masterwork endgame items in hard difficulty, and once you get a few of those, you can much more confidently go into Grandmaster, because Masterwork gear is so significantly better than purple gear, which you've been getting previously. You start getting at level 20, that you are just nothing but looking for Masterwork gear once you start getting it. For example, the first Masterwork gear weapon I got was a full auto pistol that if you're in close range and you just hit an enemy, you're going to start doing double damage. And then I got a shotgun where reloading increases the damage by 150%, stacks up to 2. So if I reload, and then start shooting guys, I'm doing 300% more damage. Again, Masterwork gear blows every other gear so far out of the water, it's all you're looking for. But you actually have a pretty limited loot pool in the hard difficulty. Only about 5 Masterwork weapons are available there, and then once you start going into Grandmasters, so as soon as you're in Grandmaster 1, the entire Masterwork loot pool and Legendary loot pool is opened up for you. Because although Masterworks are super desirable, and they're going to be the most common thing you're going for, there's actually a rarity above them, Legendary gear, which is even more insane. In fact, I think the jump from hard to Grandmaster 1 is excellently designed and balanced. It feels fantastic to get a couple of Masterworks, start diving into Grandmaster, you're struggling at first, beating a world event on Grandmaster 1 Freeplay is going to be a challenge, but you get it done, and every other Masterwork after that point is going to significantly increase your power, and you're going to feel better and better, more confident, you're going to be doing more damage, tanking more shots, and eventually you're going to get to the point where I'm at now, where you are just farming Grandmaster 1, and Grandmaster 2 is your next challenge. That feels great. The gearing up from hard into Grandmaster 1 feels fantastic. But then we've got some pretty significant jumps from Grandmaster 1 to Grandmaster 2 to Grandmaster 3. For example, if I'm in Grandmaster 1 and I prime an enemy, I freeze them, then I hit them with a fireball, they blow up and they die immediately. They die in one shot, one combo. If I go into Grandmaster 2 with the exact same build, I'm going to have to prime and detonate an enemy like 5 times to kill them. And then Grandmaster 3 is just absolute lunacy, like it's insane. And so you have this really well designed jump from hard to Grandmaster 1, and then Grandmaster 1 to 2 is this massive gap, and then 2 to 3 is just as massive as a gap. I would have much rather had it that there were 5 difficulties, and you'd have 1 extra difficulty between, Grandmaster 1 and 2 that's just at that halfway point so you can have a smoother transition, and then another one in between 2 and 3, you know what I mean? Just more different difficulties rather than these huge jumps and incredible spikes in difficulty. So you ramp up from hard to Grandmaster, and then it just goes like straight up from 2 and then to 3. So that is a little bit of a balancing issue in my opinion, but we've talked about these difficulties. What are you going to be doing when you're playing in these difficulties? Well, in the end game, you have these different activities to choose from. Number 1, you have free play. And I mentioned this first because honestly, you're going to spend a lot of time in free play during the end game because it's just such an easy activity to do solo, and you're still going to be getting pretty decent gear from it. Every single time you do a world event, every single time you kill a big enemy like a Titan or an Ursix, you're going to get loot, and you have a relatively decent chance to get Masterworks and even legendaries. I got my first legendary in free play, so it is a great way to gear up. However, of course, if you're spending a lot of time in free play, the downsides of free play really start to appear. Number one, world event variety is an issue, and it was an issue in the campaign, and it's going to be even more of an issue when you're doing more of it in the end game. You are going to be doing the same few objectives over and over and over again. Collect the echoes, or collect the different fragments, or scan the fragments, and that's basically it. Oh, sometimes eliminate enemy leaders. That's about it. Just recycled again and again and again. Sometimes you have to stand near an objective, and it's just something that really needs an injection of more variety, more, complicated objectives, different things we haven't seen, and with also fighting those bigger enemies in free play, like Titans and Ursix. They're super fun to fight, but again, there's only really those two, and they get pretty tiresome. Now, I say there's only really those two, that's actually a lie. There's a third, the Luminaries, but they are so sparse around the map. They're basically like the giant fallen walkers. You're never gonna find them. Like, I found one in all my time grinding free play, and I've grinded free play a lot. So it's tons of Titans, tons of Ursix, almost no Luminaries. So definitely first thing, increase the spawn rate of those to have more variety. Now, they could really improve the experience by introducing more of these massive beasts that roam around free play. That would be super fun to fight, like a massive giant wyvern flying around in the air, super fun, or a giant scorpion, somewhat like the Tyrant King in the Stronghold. Introduce those, that would be amazing and really help free play. But as it is now, although it's not as mind-numbing as some people are making it seem, it definitely needs more added to it, especially with the caves. There are so many caves around Anthem, and they are actually really neatly designed. They're often super cool when you get inside. Like, they look totally different than the normal world of Anthem, but they are so criminally underutilized. Almost no world events will take you into caves. Sometimes they will though. One of the coolest experiences I had was going against the Scars, and once we beat the world event outside, a secret tunnel spawned to an underground layer, and there was a second world event in there. Super cool. Do more stuff like that, because as it is now, it can get very boring very quickly. Aside from free play, you have Strongholds. Now, these are the dungeons of Anthem. You're going to unlock one along the campaign, and then the other two are kind of available to you at the end game. So 3 in total so far. There's another one coming relatively soon, but these definitely are not comparable to raids in Destiny. Now, there are some relatively cool mechanics around the boss fights. Like, you will have to, the boss is going to do an attack, and then you have to shoot the things he spews out before they explode, and then, another time a boss is going to be covered by a shield, so you have to go to the side and shoot the shield generators, stuff like that. So it's not just putting damage into a boss, thankfully, but to get up to that point, you're basically going to do the same stuff you've been doing out in the wild and free play. A grab and place objective. Hey, grab these explosive, place them by the door, then the door is going to blow up. You can continue, kill enemy leaders and stuff like that, collect echoes. There's not anything super substantial in terms of variety or in terms of mechanics that you're going to do in these dungeons, which is definitely a little bit unfortunate. Now, with that being said, they're still often pretty fun, and they're a pretty sizable challenge. The only problem is that they're really not balanced too well. Right now, almost no one actually completes Strongholds, and that's because it's much more efficient to go and get the first chest or the first 2 chests and then back out. And that's because the boss fight is so much more significantly harder than the rest of the Stronghold. Now, that actually is changing with the most recent update that actually hit. Now bosses apparently either are guaranteed or almost guaranteed to drop a masterwork, so you'll see the rate of completion going up pretty significantly. And I don't want to say that's because I actually DM'd Mike Gamble and told him to do that, but it may have been. Anyways, so hopefully that'll change, but even then, it's so much harder. It takes so much more time to kill those bosses in the Grandmaster difficulty. Most people are just going to back out after a few chests. Now, there was a recent Anthem livestream where the developers said that they're looking into adding cosmetic chests at the end of a stronghold. So you'd have to do your daily challenge to get a key, and if you go in there with a bunch of squad mates with keys, you could open a bunch of chests and get some sweet cosmetic items for beating that stronghold. Great change, really, really good change, and because those cosmetics would be exclusive to Strongholds, it would make Strongholds feel a lot more unique and special to the end game. But what's the timeline for that being introduced? Basically, the sooner the better, because they need those right now. Now, on top of Strongholds and Freeplay, the next activity you have for the endgame, and the only other activity you really have for the endgame, is going to be legendary contracts. So once you've done all of the missions for a certain character, so if you've done all of Matthias's contracts and missions, you're going to start to have legendary contracts available. You're going to grab about one a day from all the different people. So Matthias, Bryn, and Yarrow, but I forget his name, but they're all going to offer their legendary contracts, and they're contracts that you've done a million times, but they offer more substantial rewards. And they're definitely worth doing, but because there's a limited amount available each day, you're going to kind of do those, then maybe split your time between Freeplay and Strongholds. But the unfortunate part about these contracts is that they're semi-random and they offer the same objectives you've already been doing. So you go to 3 different spots. Every time it's like 3 different objectives. Go here, collect echoes, go here, collect fragments, go here, kill the enemy leader, and that's about it. Like, it gets very repetitive. And I'm sure you've noticed that's the theme of this review so far, of this end game so far, is that things definitely get repetitive. You have these same objectives that you're going to be doing so often. And unfortunately, like, there's not a whole lot of difference between the objectives in even Strongholds and then legendary contracts and then also Freeplay. You're going to be collecting echoes in all 3 of them. Strongholds are definitely the most different, especially when you consider the bosses and the boss fights. But aside from that, you have a lot of similarity. But here's the big but. That is half of Anthem's endgame. The other half is the entire reason you're doing these activities, and that is collecting loot. And that part of the game is actually fantastic. Despite all these issues, I find myself just wanting to play more Anthem day after day to get those masterworks, to get those legendaries. And that is the highlight by far of the game in general, and especially the end game. Because like we said earlier, the masterwork items are so astronomically better. They have incredible perks and features, and the synergy between them can often be fantastic. Let's give an example. One of the shotguns I got right here offers a 50% damage boost after dodging, and it stacks up to 3 times. Perfect for the interceptor that can dodge 3 times in a row. So I can just dodge, and be getting a 150% damage bonus. But that's not it. If you look at the inscriptions of this gun, you can see it has an inscription saying damage plus 150%. So this gun just rolled randomly with that little inscription, that little line of text that gives it 150% more damage. That's insane. And it's not just this gun. That's the kind of stuff you can see on Masterwork and Legendary guns. I saw someone like tweet out they got a legendary version of the Avenging Herald, which is a pistol you can get where it has 2 different physical damage bonuses adding up to like, 500% more damage or something insane like that. Blessius, another YouTuber, great guy, he tweeted out he got a legendary ability that has, it's a fireball ability, and it has elemental damage plus like 225%. You can get insane bonuses, and when you do, it feels so good, and they're so desirable, and they pack so much power. It's one of the best loot chases I've seen in any game period, and I absolutely love it. And the way it's designed too, because you have these massive variations, like my shotgun example. If you got the same exact shotgun and you didn't get damage plus 150%, yours is significantly worse. But to reduce that variation, what happens is that when you get a Masterwork or I believe legendary item, you have to kill legendary enemies with it. And there's legendary enemies even in like hard difficulties, so it's not like you have to be doing the highest difficulties. And so if you get a bad roll, it's still very possible to do this. But once you kill 10 legendaries with a gun, for example, with my shotgun, and you don't actually have to kill, you just have to get some shots on a legendary with that gun, you're going to unlock the blueprint for it. So again, with my shotgun example, you want my shotgun with that roll, you get a crappy version, kill 10 legendaries, you get the blueprint, and then you can start crafting the shotgun again and again and again until you get that god roll, until you get the perfect roll. And it's a great way to reduce variation while not cheapening the loot, because you actually have to get the Masterwork first and then use it and then unlock the blueprint. If it was the other way around, if you could get blueprints for these Masterworks really easily, well, everyone would just be crafting them and it would devalue the loot a ton. But this is a very, very good system they've got going in Anthem here. Also, I mentioned synergies, but they truly are fantastic in this game. Let's show an example. The first legendary I got was this Amulet of Winter, and it's got the ability where if I freeze an enemy, I get 40% increased weapon damage. Great bonus. So let's put on some abilities that freeze enemies, including this Glacial Spear Masterwork right here. If I kill a guy, it's going to freeze even more enemies. So just constantly freezing guys, constantly getting that bonus. I can even use this Masterwork Sniper Rifle. It's actually a full auto sniper, and if I get a hit bonus on enemies, it freezes them, which will increase the damage of this sniper. Like, it works out really, really well. You can have very creative builds and really pile on damage in certain areas. Mtash, another YouTuber I've been playing with, he got an Avenging Herald, which is a pistol that increases the damage while you're hovering. So he uses it with his Storm, and he rolled it with like 100% increased damage, so it's absurd, and then got a component that increases crit damage by 60% while you're hovering. The guy just melts enemies as long as he's hovering. When he's on the ground, he's useless, but when he's in the air, oh my goodness, he just shreds guys. So that's the kind of builds you can get in this game, and it's really fun to put those together. So that is Anthem's Endgame. A fantastic gear chase with great synergies, extremely powerful weapons and abilities and components. You are really going to enjoy anytime you get something good, anytime that you get something that synergizes with other things that you have, and super fun getting your build better and better and better and progressing into those different difficulties, dipping your toe into Grandmaster 1 and then Grandmaster 2, trying to get the best of the best items. That's all great. The downside is actually what you're doing when you're grinding those items. Freeplay and contracts and strongholds definitely get a little boring. There needs to be more variety introduced. With the changes coming relatively soon to strongholds, that's going to provide a really good incentive to do those all the way through. Again, with those cosmetic chests, like, that's going to be great. But again, how long is that going to take? We have this Cataclysm Endgame event that's arriving, claimed to be this game's version of a raid, this game's aspirational content. Well, when is that arriving? Because the game needs it right now. It needs a raid style activity right now, because you can only collect so many echoes before you get bored. However, looking positively towards the future, I do think Anthem has a decent base to improve upon. Despite all of its issues, something about this game is just undeniably fun. Flying around, shooting electricity and missiles mid-flight, darting behind cover, customizing your guy, that gear chase is just fun. It has a fun factor to it that a lot of other copy and paste first-person shooters don't. This game is very unique in its mobility and in its execution. And I think that if this game can get more variety and more activities, especially if that Cataclysm event coming soon is a really substantial activity and it's comparable to the quality of Vault of Glass with Destiny 1, we have a real game on our hands. Because I'm seeing a lot of criticism about this game, and it's very fair. This game definitely has its problems. I don't want to like dismiss anyone for the criticisms, but I see a lot of Destiny fans getting up in there. If you're a Destiny player, you maybe shouldn't be criticizing games for its rocky start. I mean, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, whew, a rocky start would put it mildly. Destiny 1 succeeded because the Vault of Glass was so good, the content was so good, the gear chase within it was so good that it basically carried the game itself until eventually it could improve with the Taken King and Rise of Iron and so on. Destiny 2 as well, we know how that game did at launch. Forsaken turned everything around. The difference between those scenarios and Anthem is that Anthem isn't charging you for those improvements. The DLC is going to be free. Will it be as good as something like Forsaken? That's the real question, and I don't know. But so far for me, Anthem's Endgame has been equally addicting as it is disappointing. The gear chase is fantastic, the activities need a lot of work. And that's my perspective on it, and I hope this helps you decide, if you want to get Anthem, if you want to hold off on getting it until we get Cataclysm and those other events, all that stuff. If you do buy this game and you really enjoyed the demos, I think you're honestly going to have a lot of fun. It's more of the demo, more of the time, and if you're willing to look past a lot of these issues, again, it provides a certain level of just dumb fun that it's hard to explain. But again, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Anthem content in the future, be sure to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.